So that is, if someone asks you what is the difference between OIDC and OAuth 2.0, then I think this answer will be good. App registration versus enterprise applications in Microsoft Entra ID. Now that we have covered the authentication protocols, let us look at something you will work with frequently in Microsoft Entra ID. App registrations and enterprise applications. These are two closely related, but they serve different purpose. So here in Entra ID, you see these two places, enterprise apps and app registrations. Actually, you can integrate an application from both the places, right? You can integrate it from enterprise applications. You can go to app registrations and register your application. Now, let us understand what app registration is. An app registration is where you register and define an application with Microsoft Entra ID. This is typically where you start when you are developing your own application and want it to integrate with Entra ID. For example, we saw in our BIMO application that I was demo SaaS application that we were registering, and it needs to authenticate using Microsoft Entra ID. We created an app registration for BIMOS for that particular application. Now, this is where we uh, get and configure things such as application, like name of the application we will give. Like suppose for this demo, I give the name of the application as test. Supported account types, whether it will support a single tenant or multi-tenant, and redirect URI. This is an optional value that we need to put. However, let us understand what this redirect URI is. This redirect URI tells Entra ID after the authentication happens where to send the user back. Now, if I select web here and we give like www or like this https by qs.com/homepage, right? So what happens, it after the authentication to my ByQs application will happen, it will send it back to the home page, but this has to be coded in the application as well. Now, if you provide something incorrect here and application does not have that page, then it will throw an error. Sometimes you have to leave this field empty. It is an optional, and we will, when we configure some OIDC application in the demo, we will see where do we put this redirect URI. Now, at the bottom it says register an app you are working on here. Integrate. So if you are developing your own application, use app registration. If you are using any gallery application and other apps from outside your organization, by adding from enterprise application. So these both the places you can register an application. So we understand app registration is nothing but simple. It defines the application and how it communicates with Microsoft Entra ID. Now let us come to app enterprise apps. Enterprise application represents an application inside your Microsoft Entra tenant. This is where administrator manages how the organization actually uses that application. For example, from enterprise apps, you can manage which user and group can access it, whether assignment is required, single sign-on, configuration, conditional access, targeting, provisioning, and other tenant specific settings. So in simple terms, enterprise application is about managing the application's access or use, how you use it within your tenant. So what is the relationship between app registration and enterprise apps? So this is where people often get confused, and frankly speaking, when I started, I also usually uh, got confused with this. Now, when you register an application, Microsoft Entra creates an application object. When that application is made available in a tenant, Entra uses a service principal to represent that application in that tenant. Now, that service principal is what you see as the enterprise application. So, think it like app registration, it defines the application. So, app registration is it defines the application, and enterprise application manage application in your tenant, and it represents. So, what you configure application ID and directory tenant ID. So when you register an application, we will see how do we get the client ID and tenant ID. Redirect URI after authentication, where the users will be redirected. Authentication settings like OIDC or OAuth 2.0. So important point to remember in app registration, if you are using an application which requires OAuth 2.0 or it works on OIDC, it is recommended that you start with app registration. You can give the API permissions, you can generate certificate and secrets, branding and other application properties you can do from application registration. Now with enterprise application, what you manage, who can access the group, and it works for single sign-on configuration. And more specific, if you are using a SAML application that uses SAML, so it is enterprise applications is the place where you should start. Now, so it is clear, the final what I'll tell you finally is, if you are building your own web application, then and I want users to sign in with Microsoft Entra ID, then I'll start with app registrations. And this is particularly common with OpenID Connect and OAuth 2.0 applications. So if your application is OIDC, you should start with app registrations. If it is a SAML, so like it is a thumb rule, you should start with an enterprise app, but don't treat it as a strict protocol rule. App registration does not mean OIDC only. Enterprise application does not mean SAML only. Both are part of Microsoft's application model. The distinction is more about what you're trying to accomplish. If you are building and registering an application, app registration is generally where you start. If you're integrating and managing application for your organization, enterprise application is generally where you will spend your time. The easiest for an existing enterprise application such as ServiceNow that I want to integrate with my organization, I will typically work through enterprise application.